Visit OnFireTV.com for live top stories, breaking news, and original shows.
What's going on? It's your man Diamond K in here, of course, thediamondkshow.com, onfire-tv.com. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for tuning in. It is election season. You've been hearing me talking about it. And this gubernatorial primary election is heating up now. We are fast approaching Election Day here in Maryland. And if you have not been paying attention, the time is now for you to pay attention. One of these folks right here, they're going to be the next governor of the great state of Maryland. And it is up to the voters of Maryland to decide. There was a debate that was hosted by Maryland Public Television and in conjunction with WBAL and the Afro newspaper. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about some of the independent polls of the 2022 gubernatorial primaries. We're going to talk about that. I'm excited about this election. I am a very vocal critic of current Governor Larry Hogan. I am happy to see him go. It's often talked about that he's a Republican governor in a Democratic state, Democratic-leaning state. And I think a lot of hay is made of it when he is a politician who benefited from a very splintered Democratic Party some 7 years ago, and he slid his way in. And when I look at the Democratic field now, right? When I look at the Democratic field now, I see the potential for that happening again. Hopefully it will not. Hopefully we will not have one of the Republican candidates because the Republican candidates are scary. The Republican candidates for governor are scary to me. But we're going to talk about that. Radical, right? If we, but I mean, you never know who a person is going to be, right? You just have a glimpse. So there have been some polls done. Now, polls are a tricky thing because you can't put too much into a poll. It's usually a very small sample size, and it just gives you a snapshot, right? And sometimes people lie on polls. Sometimes people are not telling the truth. So what you think that you see is not really what it is. Just tune in. It's your man Diamond K in here, of course, thediamondkshow.com, onfire-tv.com. There was a 1-hour debate featuring candidates trying to get the Democratic Party's nomination in this race for governor. These are the 8 candidates that participated in the debate. These are the leading candidates for this position. It's a very important position here in Maryland. So who's it going to be? Who is it? I think that it's still too soon to tell. The top Democrats running for governor gathered in a TV studio for what was most likely the most watched debate of the primary thus far. And I don't know. July 19th is fast approaching. One of these guys is going to be the Democrat that is pushed forward by his party to the general election. Now, the Baltimore Sun and the University of Baltimore published a poll on Sunday suggesting that the race for the Democratic nomination had only 3 candidates firmly in double digits. Now, things can still change, and that's just one poll. So, based on the Baltimore Sun / University of Baltimore poll, Comptroller Peter Franchot had the support of 20% of the Democrats that were surveyed. Author and former nonprofit CEO Wes Moore had about 15% of the support. And former U.S. Labor Secretary and DNC Chairman Tom Perez had 12% of support. The other candidates in single digits. Now, a survey of likely Republican voters found that former State Commerce Secretary Kelly Schultz led Delegate Dan Cox 26 to 21%, and Robin Ficker and Joe Werner, who is not pictured here, had 5 and 4% respectively. So in both of these cases, undecided voters are going to really tell the tale. 31% of undecided in the Democratic Party and 42 undecided on the GOP side. A lot to talk about. So this particular survey, and this is what I'm talking about, we can't put too much into it. It is a sample size. And I do think that based on the survey results, the survey results are pretty much where I feel that the tea leaves are blowing. Right? You have a close race from the Republican side with Kelly Schultz and Dan Cox. Pretty close. That's what it feels like. That's what I've been seeing out in the digital streets. Now, on the Democratic side, yes, I think your top 3 right now: Franchot, Moore, Perez. They're the ones with the most money, and they have the most visibility. Are they the best candidates? I don't know. I have a lot of things. I mean, we talk about Wes Moore. He's someone that has had a lot of hype, but I think that he has been under-delivering. He's not an exciting candidate to me. And for someone that comes with the type of hype, I would expect him to be more engaging, more motivating, but he does not come across that way. And I've often talked about this. Tom Perez, someone who I did not think would be as, just I would not have this connection with as much as I do. But I like Tom Perez. I like what he's saying. And I felt that in his previous role as secretary, labor secretary, or as DNC chairman, we did not get to see who he was, so to speak. He was juggling a lot of things, as he told me in a previous interview, juggling a lot of things and, trying to hold the progressive side and the moderate side of the party together and, kind of muzzled. He didn't say he was muzzled. I'm saying he was muzzled, but, juggling those wings of the party is difficult. And of course, Peter Franchot, someone that has been in his position for many years, well known throughout Maryland. I definitely think that he is the front runner legitimately because of the name recognition alone. He is clearly a moderate. And, I don't know. So are we shaping up for Peter Franchot to be facing Kelly Schultz in the general election? I do think that. Unless something happens, that seems to be where we're going. Now, here's the thing. we have a lot of Democrats in the race. Too many, I think. Too many. Now, let's say that you had a Westmore or Tom Perez come out of this race. The other one would probably get the majority of their support, strengthens them. It would cement one of them to probably get the nomination. But pride, but ego, politics will not allow them to do that. Right? So then we're going to have Francho, who's probably going to win. At least he's the most known entity on the Democratic side. And if you have the majority of the voters being not engaged, you're going to have just an influx of older voters. You're going to have an influx of folks who know Peter Francho and are going to be comfortable with voting for him on the Democratic side. So that's where I'm looking at that. And Kelly Schultz is, the heir apparent from Larry Hogan. So those that were comfortable with Larry Hogan's strategies, Larry Hogan's, policies, you're going to get more of the same from Kelly Schultz. Dan Cox is the Trump candidate. He's a little out there. He's very far to the right. And I don't think that Maryland is the state that would push him forward as far as the Republicans. They push Dan Cox forward. If Dan Cox wins a GOP nomination, I don't know. I think that it is pretty much assured that the Democrat is going to win, and it's just going to be hands down. Bam, there it is. But what you have is a state that's had 2 years of a Republican governor that is touted as someone that has these high ratings. But when you look at Maryland before Larry Hogan and Maryland after Larry Hogan, we're not in better shape. We're in worse shape. So let's not act like this Republican governor who, quote unquote, has these high approval ratings really did something good for the state of Maryland. Maryland is a state, not a city, right? There are many, many cities within Maryland. His primary focus is being an adversary to Baltimore City, to Baltimore, and not an ally. In Annapolis, in the governor's mansion, Maryland will benefit from Baltimore having an ally there, not an adversary. Not an adversary. And I just think that a Republican right now would be an adversary. Now, there's some Democrats that would be an adversary, I think. So what did we see during this Democrat debate? We saw different strategies from these gentlemen, different ways of doing things. And these different approaches will get us complete different results. So you look at somebody like former Attorney General Doug Gansler, who is right here with he's the gentleman, the third in the top row, right? Doug Gansler is one of those guys that's pushing, this heavy crime thing. Wants to bring more police officers. He wants to crack down on crime. And he talked about crime that happens in underserved communities and communities of color. You listen to Doug Gansler and you think that that's the only place where crime happens, right? So he wants to bring this hammer down on the inner city. More police. That's what he thinks that is needed. So that's the type of thing. Now he has, really been pretty consistent on the campaign trail, right? He said that he's the most electable Democrat this fall. And, I don't know if what he is selling is connecting based on this poll. he was just 4% in this poll. Now, I understand the Democratic field is wide. So he was, Gansler was a runner-up in the 2014 Democratic primary for governor with 24%. It's been clear for a while that Gansler is going to finish well out of money, So it's really about that. So we talk about money. This is advertising. This is getting in the faces of voters, citizens. And, he's not, while he is a name that people know, former attorney general, he has just not had the type of visibility that's needed to get him in those in that top three, right? So his strategy to me is more along the lines of Eric Adams in New York, the former police chief. That's just just tough on crime kind of thing, and they've elected guys like that, and that has not helped with crime. That strategy, because the problem of crime is based on economics. It's based on economics. So you coming down with this hammer is not going to solve the problem. It's not going to solve the problem. Now, we have some guys up here that have some innovative strategies to really help combat some of the things. But I just don't think that they have the campaign finances to really stay in this race and get their message heard. So maybe next time, maybe in another position, that's possible. But, every candidate in this race wishes he was leading the field, right? And it's a tricky thing. Of course, we're talking about these are all men, right? Francho is in the main position. That's no surprise. The campaign is well funded, right? It is well funded. He is in that position. You always want to be ahead in this home stretch, and that's where we are. We're in the home stretch. But here's the thing. Francho is in the lead, but his lead is, I don't know, it's kind of weak. It's not a strong lead. He hasn't really moved forward in the last 10 months. He's kind of in the same position that he was in. He's kind of go along, get along. He doesn't, while people know Peter Francho, they're not excited about him, right? He's won big statewide races in the last, 4 election cycles. 80% of Maryland Democrats support one of his rivals or are undecided. How strong is his lead? Is there room for growth in the final weeks of this campaign? Yes, it is. And things could completely fall apart. The wheels could fall off, everything, right? So he definitely at one time had a financial advantage, but Francho has at least 9 fundraisers scheduled in the month of June alone. 9. Now, that may once have been seen as getting an early start on the general election, but he might need all of that money that he raises in June for his primary push. Now, when you ride around Maryland, or you ride around Baltimore City, Baltimore County, I see some signs. I see more signs for Westmore. More signs for Westmore than I do for any. Now, if early polls were to be believed, Moore has shown the greatest movement of all the candidates. Now, since he entered the race last year, with all the money he's prepared to spend in the weeks ahead, it's clear that he is a serious contender. Now, in some of his appearances, I have not been too impressed, but you cannot make any argument for the fact that he has visibility. He has visibility, and he's probably best equipped to outperform Francho. At one point in time, I thought that this was Wes Moore's race to lose, but he spent a lot of money already. And considering the air of celebrity surrounding his campaign, many people are pushing him like the new Obama. Obama, he is not. He is his own. He's his own entity. But I think that the wow factor that I have seen, and I saw the wow factor when he's pushing his book, right? But based on what I saw while he was promoting his book and gearing up towards this run, he should be further ahead. He should be doing much better than what he's doing. He's bringing in Oprah next week, virtually, who is universally beloved, and Oprah is a political force of her own. That will certainly crank up that wow factor. So I definitely look to Wes Moore to have a breakout last few weeks of this campaign. And although he is in third in this independent poll that we've been looking at, Tom Perez voters were more firm with their support. I think that when I've been listening to him speak, I hear the passion, I see the passion, and his supporters, he has less support based on the poll, but his support is stronger. His supporters are more pro Tom Perez than Francho and Moore supporters, which means he could peel off some of their supporters. He could peel them off. All right. So you have that. The labor unions that are backing him represent a very formidable base. And he is just beginning to unleash his campaign spending on TV ads. And I have been seeing more signs up lately. He is generally well known. He's well liked. He's a nice guy among some of the prime Democrat voters. They know him. And that's going to help him in this primary. So I look to, see some big things. It's going to probably be one of these three guys for the Democrats. But there are some very exciting, candidates that are in this race that don't have the money. And unfortunately, you don't know their name and you don't see any of their, campaign stuff when you're driving around. John King for governor, his campaign has been working to convince the public that the former Obama administration education secretary is surging. Right? Now, in the view of many political professionals, he has run a focused campaign with a consistent progressive message and an emphasis on building grassroots support. I like him. And we're talking about the gentleman here with the black blazer and the red and gray tie. All right. Now, that aside is not enough. He wasn't widely known when he started campaigning. And based on the poll, the Sun UB poll, he has not caught fire yet. He's only attracted 4% of the support of those that were polled. 4%. So that is a lot of ground that would need to be covered. You have Baker, who's in it, the former Prince George's County executive, Rashawn Baker. And, he has had appearances that I've seen that I was excited about stuff that he was saying. I didn't think that his appearance in the last election, the last debate that ran on Monday was his best. He has campaigned aggressively, like any other candidate in the recent weeks. But his focus has been almost entirely on Baltimore City and PG County. He's going to need to do more than that to win in the primary, right? That does not appear to be paying off for him. Fundraising has been a challenge, and that's a challenge for a lot of the candidates. It's tricky. It's tricky. Baker was the runner-up in the 2018 Democratic primary for governor. He got 29% of that. It's always, I hate the fact that, these races come down to money. I hate that fact, but that is the fact. That is the fact. Campaign finance reports are due to be filed on June the 14th, and that will be the next big benchmark in the gubernatorial race. I expect more twists, more turns, more surprises, but we cannot finish out this discussion without going to the Republicans for a moment. And we're going to do that. Let's do this. Take a quick break, and we're going to come back with more of the show. Jermaine Diamond K, OnFireTV.com.
Visit OnFireTV.com for live top stories, breaking news, and original shows.
Welcome back. Your man Diamond K in here, and we are talking about the Maryland governor's race heating up. I say heating up because we are in the home stretch of this. The primaries in Maryland, July the 19th, right around the corner. What is going to happen? Where are we going? So the Democrats sparred over education funding and ethics on this televised debate that happened. I really enjoyed it. I watched it three or four times. There were some tense moments between these gentlemen. There were attacks, right? There were attacks. Westmore and there were accusations made. Let me say that. Westmore launched an attack against Francho. That was interesting. That was interesting. He accused the state's chief tax collector of being pay for play, using his post to leverage donations. Moments later, Moore's campaign emailed reporters a list of instances in which companies that received contracts from the Board of Public Works on which Francho serves donated to his campaign shortly before or after key votes. This is politics. This is what happens. He said that the people who will get Peter Francho's support oftentimes are those who pay for it. 12 times that has happened that he has offered a contract to someone who has donated to his campaign. So when we're talking about integrity, pay for play is not part of the integrity pledge. Wow. Now, the documents distributed by Moore's camp catalog more than $60,000 in donations from companies that received more than $2 billion in state contracts, according to MarylandMatters.org. Maryland's comptroller serves alongside the state governor and treasurer on the contract approving board. Contracts originate with state agencies, universities, hospitals, and other institutions, and Moore made no claim that Francho was steering state business to cronies. But given a chance to respond, Francho ignored the accusations. Instead, he cast himself as a fiscal moderate who is socially compassionate. Francho said, but I say to people, I'm not a robot. He said a bit incredulously, I'm not going to do exactly what the powerful people in Annapolis want me to do. After the debate pressed by reporters, Francho said that he was proud of the contributions his campaign has received. But Wes Moore also found himself on the receiving end of an attack when Tom Perez suggested that Moore's work as an investment banker undercut his claim of being an ethical public servant. From 2007 to 2012, I was fighting predatory lenders, Tom Perez said. During that same time, Wes Moore was working at Citibank. Citibank was one of the banks that were very bad actors in the foreclosure crisis. I took on big banks, and I personally don't know how working at Citibank is public service, Tom Perez said. Moore did respond by complaining that 0 Wall Street executives went to prison for their role in the collapse of the economy. That's not getting stuff done, Moore chided. Perez noted that he worked in the civil rights division, not the fraud unit. Oh, yes, things are heating up. This is what we need. Moore also accused Perez of actively seeking support from Black voters, despite being the subject of a no confidence vote by the Congressional Black Caucus. Oh, yes, the Democrats are dirtying each other up. Wes Moore said that, so the truth is, Tom, when you talk about what it means to hold people accountable and what it means to fight for the little guy, the little guy is the one who's actually been oppressed by you. Wow, strong words. This is the Wes Moore that I wanted to see. He's swinging back. Perez countered, saying that one of his strongest supporters is my good friend Keith Ellison, the former Congressional Black Caucus member. When I got to be DNC chair, we didn't have the White House. We didn't have the Senate. We didn't have the House, Perez said. Now we have the White House, the Senate, and the House. Former U.S. Education Secretary John King accused Moore of serving on the board of predatory for-profit college that was taking advantage of students. Moore said that he was a board member at the American Public Education, which included the American Military University. He was not aware of an investigation by the state of Massachusetts for predatory lending practices. So he said the investigation started in 2017, and he left the board at the end of that year. So, of course, he did have an answer for that. The school did reach a settlement and paid a $270,000 fine to the state in 2018. King said that the system he helped the Obama administration set up to cancel debt for students who attended colleges with predatory lending practices is once again operating under the Obama administration. Francho was accused of rewriting history with regard to the blueprint for Maryland's future, which was a landmark education initiative approved by the General Assembly last year. So we were talking about the Kerwin plan. Candidates continue to make their cases for voters. And we're going to do this. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with more of the show. It's your man, Diamond K. Stay tuned. We'll be back after this.
On Fire TV is a streaming network for a generation on the move.